Something to Offer, the show that goes to the heart of people living their dreams. And we'll meet them in just a moment. I am as delighted as can be to welcome back to the show a guest that is no stranger here. It has been a while, and he is a person that is devoted to service, to people, having a wonderful experience at the theater, and in their time in the city, whatever city it is, he is also very much a stand for them having just a great experience in their whole theater entertainment evening or afternoon. He is the founder and owner and the heart of Applause Theater Tickets, Richard Gladstone. Welcome back to the show, Richard. It's been so long.
My goodness, yes. My goodness. I'm so sorry that that it has taken such a long time, but we are together again, and we always have a good time doing this.
We do, definitely. So, Rich, right away, I wanted to ask you, for you personally, what has been a magical moment in the theater for you as an audience member when you go?
You know, it's such a great question, because I remember when I saw my first show, maybe I was like 16 years old, and now it's 50 years later, and I can only tell you, when the orchestra starts playing music, the lights go down, I'm ready for the show. You don't really know what you're going to experience. It's just the excitement of, you know, anywhere from 600 to 1,800 people sitting around you, mm-hmm. and just the theater is electrifying. I love it.
Mm-hmm. That it is true, and you're right. All those things just get you kind of ready to jump into the experience with the actors and the performers. Since last we met, about 2014, you've had a lot of productions in your family. You've had a wedding. You've had 2 grandbabies, and I wondered what the magical moments of being a grandparent are like.
That answer is pretty simple. Although we have nothing to do with the production of these grandkids, we now have 2 inside of 3 years, a little boy 10 months old, Axel, and a little girl almost 3 years old. And I can only tell you, you look at them and you know how deeply you love them, and you hardly know them. You're just getting to know them. So those productions were the highlight of my life.
I'm sure. I thought they might be, and I've seen pictures, and they're just so adorable.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a moment for an offering, and we'll see you in just a moment.
I love that.
Rich, Applause Theater Tickets is about 35 years, 34 years, and I think if I did my math right from when we were here before, you said 26, and then I added the time. In brief, can you just recap how you and your original partner, Bill, came to this brainchild of, I mean, I know people are ticket brokers, but yours is a little more special. You know, yours is a little, takes it notch above a lot of other people, I think.
Thank you for the question. You know, it's funny. I worked for one ticket agency for many years and met Bill at the second ticket agency we went to work for. And we're just sitting around his pool one day, and his wife said, "Guys, why don't you do this for yourself?" And I said, "You know what, Barbara, it's such a great idea." Long story short, we said, how can we make service better to hotel concierge? Because we both had a lot of clients at each of our respective ticket companies, and we felt they were being taken for granted. So long story short, we called up a bunch of hotels in the city, and our whole business premise was based on selling tickets to hotel concierge and their guests that would wake up in the morning, come to their desks, maybe before or after eating breakfast, and needed tickets for a show. So that was 35 years. It'll be September 1, and we went on to serve travel agents and consumers and people all over the world.
That's great. So I wanted to ask, the tables turned definitely in COVID and the shutdown, and you had your whole brand and how you do your business. Amazing team of people that served people over and over again. Everybody was a real people person, all your staff then. And, you chat everybody chats or advises people when they call. They'll take as much time as needed. People can ask about their concerns or a restaurant or should we, how should we hold our bag or whatever it is. And you all would just be with them as long as they needed to and not even worry about whether, the end result was a ticket or not, sold a ticket. You're like the heart of it. So can you share a bit about what it's like when, you have such a thing and then, how you created that and how you, not select each individual person, but the right people have to gravitate to work with you in your business. And what was it like to have the, that complete, like having to let everybody go and, the pulse in the city and that stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's about 4 questions.
I know. So you just do whatever you want to do on that.
That's okay. As I was alluding to earlier, we wanted to do something special for service. And I think that's more important than ever. And why is that? Today, the biggest of companies pushes their consumer clients to go online. They don't even want to serve you. If you went to a major airline today, you might wait on hold for 4 hours, so they tell you to go to their website. We went the other way. We said, call us. And if you went on our website today, even as opposed to 25 years ago when we started our website, you'd see that we put the emphasis on calling us. I haven't seen that anywhere. And so we lean into that. Now, we may lose a customer or prospect or two that only wants to book their tickets online, but I could sell tickets probably in 4 minutes to somebody. I probably spend 5 to 25 minutes just chatting with people about their experience in New York or London, because that's more important to me. I want them to remember there's a guys and gals in New York that are really their friends and that can help them have the best experience possible. And I think we bring that off. To answer another question of yours, I think you said, how did it feel? How did it feel to lay off your entire staff? I don't think I have to tell anybody. It feels absolutely horrible. And we held off as long as we could. And then when Broadway said it's going to be about 1.5 years before we come back in business, we just had to lay off everybody. A couple of people moved away. A couple of people got other jobs. Now it's just myself, my wife Celeste. And I told you before we started the show I couldn't do any of this without her because she handles all the accounting and admin and closed COVID performances and refunds, things like that. And I do most of the talking to the clients, which is something I really like to do. But mostly I spend more time not talking tickets, talking about things to do in New York, places to maybe have brunch or dinner, and maybe there's a new sightseeing attraction or something free to do like walking the High Line in New York. So I'm not sure if I answered all 4 of your questions.
You already answered some of my other ones that are coming up, so that's good. We'll just move around. But I guess also what I meant about what it feels like, I know it feels horrible to do that, but also I had another question. What's it like to be kind of on hold, just like every Broadway actor, every theater? And can you possibly talk about, I don't know if I think people understand the magnitude that Broadway in and of itself employs so many people in so many other realms, the people who make these playbills, the ushers, ticket brokers,
refreshment people,
wardrobe people, costume people.
Yeah, a very thought-provoking question. I mean, I think there's about 100,000 people that work in the theater industry in New York City or related fields, whether it's restaurant, bar, sightseeing attractions. So how did it feel for me? Well, I'm a guy now that when COVID started, I was 63 years old. Now Broadway's come back almost a year now. I'm 66 years old. Time is moving fast as it does always. But it felt pretty bad, but I also thought there were a lot worse things in life. We have our health. Fortunately, we were people that didn't get sick, and we
You had time to see the grandbabies.
Yeah, we went to Oregon to see our grandkids many times. But, as I get older, I think more about life, and theater is something I still love to do. I had friends of mine that said to me, Rich, why don't you retire? You did well enough, which was kind of a funny question or comment from them, because the guys and gals that were suggesting I retire are not retired. So I'm not. I guess they thought Broadway might not come back,
right?
Although they never alluded to that. But Broadway's back, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. And again, not just to sell tickets. I do sell tickets. I'm a ticket broker, but I'm kind of like a concierge of New York, and I don't know so much about London, but we sell a lot of tickets for London theater, mainly to our travel agent clients, and it's just great to be back.
I'm so happy it is. Why don't we take a moment for an offering, and we'll get into some more details of, what Rich has got to tell us about Broadway currently, and what he thought about like who was award winners and stuff that might be hidden gems that people don't really hear about. So we'll be back in just a moment.
I like your sayings.
When you got back, how did you gear up? I mean, so you go from kind of busy, Broadway's busy, everything's busy, all of a sudden they're doing a show, and then everybody's going, boom. Then you have all this time off. You got to keep hope alive, I guess, or maybe you thought, well, I'll just go a day at a time and see what happens. But then Broadway comes back, and how do you gear up? Did people start looking for you right away? Were you just holding on? And then all the fits and starts with, shows going in, COVID, like you already referred to, COVID shutdowns in the middle of it. How do you navigate all that? You and Celeste.
Yeah, it was kind of simple in that respect, because I think I just figured I'll wait for my phone to start ringing. And if I say so, Celeste, as well as we know each other after being married for 35 years, I don't know that she thought it would come back the way I did. But she learned pretty quickly that it did. So long story short, our phone started ringing. We have developed over the last 35 years a book of business, maybe some would refer to it. Many thousands of travel agents who were out of business as well because people weren't traveling anywhere. And of course, consumers, people that are just, regular account customers. And as soon as Broadway went on sale again, we slowly but surely started hearing from people. And it came back in sort of segments, because some people were afraid to go into the theater. There was not social distancing at the theater. The producers of shows couldn't go back into business unless they convinced the city of New York that every seat had to be filled, because Broadway is very expensive. Most people don't know this, but more shows lose money on Broadway than the hits that make shows. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. About what you just said and how you always go beyond, are the questions people, when they're talking to you on the phone now or getting ready, or are they coming to you with some of their fears and apprehensions about being in the theater, or particularly more when the shows would be up and the shows would be down, and then having to juggle, like, returning tickets? Like, do you have to is there like some emotional components for some people, or some of even the travel agents, because they're, people are leaning on them, they're leaning on you, you're leaning on Broadway,
Sure.
Yeah.
It's mostly that they just kind of want to know what the current rules are, and we put that in our emails, because I usually send people a proposal, so I don't expect people to buy the first time they call me. So we send them a note that you either have to have a proof of COVID vaccination and mask wearing, which has basically gone away on Broadway. Nobody's asking for proof of COVID vaccine, except maybe the Met Opera House. And masking is in force through the month of June, but it's optional in July, so things are becoming easier. But I don't really have to handhold. I really just have to give good information. I think anybody thinking about booking Broadway or London tickets is feeling comfortable about traveling again, and then they're booking.
Well, that's good. Let's talk about the season, where it is, where you have the insider on some stuff that's probably coming this way. So what would have been your picks, for this year, or what are your favorite shows, or was there like a real surprise show you would like, really like an underdog show or anything like that?
Being somebody that basically loves to be entertained, I really almost never care what I go to see, whether it's a play, which don't generally stick around in New York, unfortunately, because Broadway is mostly supported by tourists. I think over 60% of the tickets sold now are bought by people from out of town. And they generally like the big shows with a big cast and production venues. But I can never predict what's going to sell. I'll give you, for instance, I'm not sure. We have a couple of show posters here. Tina, the Tina Turner musical, is one of my favorite shows. Absolutely love that. It's closing August 17th. But it was here before COVID started. So most people think it wasn't here that long, but it was here, and it did very well for the few years that it was here. I like Billy Crystal's Mr. Saturday Night, about an aging comedian trying to still stay relevant. I think just about my favorite show this year, but again, it wasn't this season's, it was the season before, which people mostly forget because it was COVID interrupted, was Moulin Rouge, which is an interesting story about an English writer who came to Paris to write a show, and he bumped into some hedonists along the way who asked him to write a show about them. So Moulin Rouge is about the Moulin Rouge of Paris, very entertaining, and it's what we call a jukebox musical. It's like the music of your life. I can't explain it, but I walked into the show. I'm sitting next to my wife. We knew every song, and I didn't expect to know any songs. I guess I should have read more about it before I went to see it. This year's hit, and it's this season's hit, which didn't win any awards, is an older show, maybe about 80 years old, called The Music Man. Meredith Willson's Music Man, starring Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster. And Hugh Jackman is obviously a huge movie actor and theater actor, always sells a lot of tickets. The prices are so much higher, but a lot of people are paying it. I say that people should see it for Sutton Foster, even though Hugh Jackman is quite good. To see him tap dancing around stage when he's mostly a movie actor was absolutely fabulous. So another great show is Six the Musical. I think I have a poster up there. And that is about the ex-wives of Henry VIII. And although I thought that would win the musical of the year, did not. But very entertaining. Some people don't like it because it's kind of like a Mamma Mia. There's a wacky story there, and the actresses that play the ex-wives of Henry VIII, all mimic pop star divas like Beyonce or Ariana Grande. So I'm sitting.
It's kind of an interesting, wild idea, kind of.
I'm sitting in the theater. I took 9 other people with me. My wife's to my right. Other folks, my friends, family, were to the left. And basically everybody thought, well, this is entertaining, but nobody really went with it. And I sat next to my wife and I said, I'm sure you're not going to love this because it's too wacky and crazy, but it's theater. You never really know what to expect. And who cares? I just want to be entertained, and I thoroughly was. And
they were telling history. I mean, if you listen, I guess, because I just saw that little piece on the Tonys, but they legitimately are sharing the history of those women in that time period.
Yes, and I didn't think it would be the wacky and craziness that was on stage, but it was. And I did leave something out. It won a few awards, particularly for the, I think, Best Actor in a Musical was, I don't know if I have it up, it's MJ, the Michael Jackson musical. I hear it's going to tour all over the country. I was never a Michael Jackson fan, not for any particular reason, knew many of his pop songs. A fabulous show.
It only does a part of his time, right? Of his musical career.
Exactly. In fact, most of it takes place. It's kind of like it opens up, and the musicians are on stage, and it's really mostly about his. They're rehearsing for his last tour, his last concert tour, which unfortunately never happened because he had his untimely death at that point. I guess that's probably about 10 years ago. Well, and of course they do flashbacks to younger versions of Michael Jackson.
And I heard those guys are great too.
There's a little kid Michael Jackson and like a teenager, and they're wonderful also. And of course it gives you a little bit of insight into his childhood and maybe some troubles that were there. But he was the guy where all the pressure was on to, make money in the music business.
Yeah, exactly.
But very entertaining.
Great. Do you have any sneak that you can tell us that's coming in soon in the fall? I mean, this will go on in the summer, but yeah.
Sure. And before I do that, let me just say, I left out this year's Tony Award winner for Best New Musical was A Strange Loop, which I haven't seen yet. And we don't sell it that well because I think it deals with, I think it's about a black queer writer writing
about a black
queer writer writing a musical. And if you describe that to, I have mostly a tourist trade, I'm not selling that. But I can't wait to see it. You don't win an award for no reason. And Company won Best Musical Revival. And because COVID is still out there, I think because of that, they just announced they're closing, I believe, in late August. I think it's August 27th.
A bunch of things are closing in August.
But you did ask me last what's coming. There's a show no one's talking about. I didn't even see the full movie, but I guess the movie's about 20 years old, called Almost Famous.
Okay,
I think it's about a rock magazine, like a Rolling Stone magazine writer who travels around the country with a band. And so that should be Neil Diamond's show, and a show about Neil's life called A Beautiful Noise, which was one of his big hits, is starting in November.
That should be great.
And that should be really fantastic. So it should be an exciting season. And I do have to say, we had the vaccine requirement was dropped in June, and we've had the masking at least through June 30. But there were only a few COVID performance cancellations, and which is something that we were very grateful for. So we don't know how the vax and the masking requirements will be going forward, but it looks like things are becoming
a little stabilized,
yeah.
A little safer. That's good. Well, what I wanted to ask, Rich, when you do the kind of work you do and serve people the way you do, have you found do you have kind of an overall mission, or like how you infuse it? Because, and I'm assuming some ticket brokers haven't come back, but maybe they all have. But again, yours is kind of different. It's just more like you're like the Mr. Rogers of tickets. You know what I mean? That's a real big compliment. I mean, it's like people are your neighbors. So. People are once you pick up the phone, you engage in a deeper way than just selling. So would you say you've developed a mission over the years, or what your ultimate passion is about it, because you love it? So
yeah, my mission for our guests and our clients is really just happiness. I've just they can buy tickets on their phone in, I don't know, about 2 minutes, I guess, and you can buy tickets on our website that way also. But people
and don't forget about the app to tell them.
Yeah, I'll do that. People want to call and talk to us, and I think they more often than not don't ask. They just think, let me call a ticket company. Oh, and they're nice, which we are, and very helpful, and we take our time explaining how best to enjoy New York, how to get the most out of their vacation. But I think happiness, it keeps coming back to, and I really think that we develop people, and they all called. We developed a business whereby people were like, these guys are great. And I think we're getting more business now. And why is that? I believe in competition, always have my whole life. I think it makes all of us work harder. But I think, as you were alluding to a moment ago, I think several ticket brokers went out of business, guys and girls I knew my entire career. Unfortunate for them, although some of them were kind of ready to retire. They were either my age, a little younger, or a little older. And so I think by them closing their business, that maybe I'm just one of the next searches in the Google Decks, if you will, of life, or maybe they ask somebody, who can I go to? But for me, I think the key will always be, how can I be helpful to people? And honestly, this sounds odd, maybe, but whether people buy tickets from me or not, it doesn't really matter. Maybe they won't buy on this phone call, but maybe they'll call me again, or maybe they'll refer me to someone else who could use us. But we are definitely back in business. We're doing extremely well. I would like to put another year or so behind us with a COVID cancellation here and there, and of course safety for everybody involved while attending the theater, and particularly those people that work in the theater or in a related industry, before I hire again. And sometimes that's tough. We have some very busy days where we could use some help, but we have to have that with more regularity. But I'm just very grateful that I have a job that's fun.
Yep, and you have, which you talked about already, and I had a question, but I actually put a thing. I always put little things together. I think, you know, applause is 2 hands clapping, right? So they weren't clapping during COVID, but in order to, when you guys came back, it was 2 hands, but it was Rich Gladstone and Celeste Gladstone, and that's what makes the applause and makes the business run at this point, which is great. You know, how do you face those? How do you power through, or do you have any kind of, you know, kind of guiding word? Like if people are going on anything they're doing, there's going to be kind of bumps in the road, and how do you approach your bumps, or how do you? 3 minutes. Okay, great.
Good question, because well, being in business is, you know, just like you know, being a living, breathing human being. Lots of bumps in the road, and most days are great. Some are not that great. Some are average, and some are real downers. You know, you think about people's health. We were chatting about that before the show. But my partner Bill and I started out, you know, almost 35 years ago. He's long gone now, unfortunately. May rest in peace. But his vision was the same: give great service, exceptional service, remarkable service, things that people will remark about. And so what is going the distance about? I think it's just, you know, like living your best life. Every phone call, I want to be a good phone call for the people I'm talking to, not necessarily for me. But I said a moment ago that I have a really good time talking to my clients every day, whether they buy or whether they don't buy. And I really mean that. So I would say don't necessarily expect too much. If you're fortunate enough to make a living, then that's a good thing. And if you can go out and be entertained yourself, just like everything in life, to go the distance, I think you just have to expect the best of yourself, and you know, never stop trying to do the best. Yeah,
and delivering it like every day, like you do, and like Celeste does.
100%.
Yeah, because you know we can't do a whole Celeste show, but
she'll be embarrassed. And
yes,
I always tell her how much I love her. But I was saying to you prior to the show, I could never bring this business back without my wife. Celeste.
Yeah, and she has such an acumen for business from her own business that she ran for several years in, you know, with dealing with people.
Thank you for saying so. I mean, Celeste used to get up to 6,000 people on a cruise ship. So the 1,200 to 1,800 people that, you know, crowd into a theater every night is, I guess, maybe simpler for her in some ways. But let me just publicly thank you, honey.
Yes, it's great. Well, I think Paul's also has always been active in charities. You used to do a lot of stuff around a McDonald house and everything. So, you know, it's not like, you know, you're just not one-sided. You make sure you do the whole rounded of all, giving back, giving, and it's...
Yeah, actually, that's one of the board members of the National Association of Ticket Brokers gives back charity. And we still, if you know, you got to give back.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Rich, for coming again and giving your heart and telling us what makes New York tick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.